The sleek black car pulled up to the curved driveway of the Bayview Hotel, just as the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the property. Pam Bondi checked her appearance in the rearview mirror one last time before stepping out. She had deliberately dressed down today, faded jeans, a simple blue blouse, and minimal makeup. Her normally styled blonde hair was pulled back in a casual ponytail. No one would recognize her as the former Attorney General of Florida, or more importantly, as the woman who had purchased this hotel chain just 3 weeks ago. This is perfect, she thought, grabbing her worn leather weekender bag from the passenger seat. The bag was a deliberate choice, too. Nice enough not to look shabby, but far from the designer luggage she typically carried. Pam had always believed in seeing things from the ground up. When she was Attorney General, she would sometimes visit courthouses unannounced, sitting in on cases to understand how justice really worked for everyday people. Now that she had moved into the business world, she brought the same philosophy. Her investment group had acquired the struggling Bayview hotel chain at a bargain price, but the financial reports couldn't tell her why guest satisfaction had plummeted in the past 2 years. Sometimes you have to experience it yourself, her grandfather used to say. He had built a small restaurant empire from a single diner, and he would regularly eat at his own establishments without telling the staff who he was. Pam smiled at the memory as she walked. Through the revolving doors into the lobby, the Bayview's main property was supposed to be their crown jewel, a waterfront hotel with stunning views and a reputation for luxury that had somehow slipped away. From the outside, it still looked impressive. Gleaming glass windows, well-maintained gardens, and a grand entrance. But Pam knew appearances could be deceiving. The lobby was spacious with marble floors and high ceilings, but she immediately noticed small signs of neglect. A wilting plant in the corner, smudges on the brass fixtures, and only one person working the front desk despite several guests waiting in line. Pam took her place at the end of the line, observing everything. A young couple ahead of her were discussing their honeymoon plans in excited whispers. An older businessman checked his watch repeatedly, sighing loudly to signal his impatience. The lone desk clerk seemed overwhelmed but was moving as slowly as if he had all the time in the world. 15 minutes later, Pam finally reached the front of the line. "Welcome to Bayview Hotel," the clerk said without looking up from his computer. His name tag read Ryan. He had dark circles under his eyes and a coffee stain on his wrinkled uniform shirt. "Hi, I have a reservation under Patricia Monroe." Pam had booked under her middle name and mother's maiden name to ensure no one would make the connection. Ryan typed lethargically, still not making eye contact. "2 nights, a standard room?" "That's right," Pam confirmed, noticing he hadn't greeted her by name or offered any of the welcomes that were standard in the training manual she had reviewed last week. "Credit card and ID," he said, holding out his hand while staring at his screen. Pam provided them, watching closely as Ryan barely glanced at either before swiping her card. "You're in room 412. Elevators are that way." He pushed a key card across the counter with a printed map of the hotel. "Checkout is at 11. No mention of the hotel amenities. No offer to help with luggage. No information about the restaurant hours or the gym facilities." The manual had a whole section on the proper check-in procedure, and Ryan had skipped nearly all of it. "Is there a time when the pool area is less crowded?" Pam asked, testing him. Ryan shrugged. "Probably mornings. Most people are at the beach during the day." "And breakfast times?" He pointed vaguely toward a sign near the elevators. "It's all posted over there." "Thank you for your help," Pam said with a smile that wasn't returned. She walked away, making mental notes. The official welcome script included at least 5 more points of information that should have been shared with every guest. The first impression was supposed to set the tone for the entire stay. The elevator was clean but dated. When Pam reached the 4th floor, she immediately noticed the faded carpet and scuff marks on the walls. Her room was at the end of a long hallway that smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals mixed with something less pleasant. Perhaps mildew. Room 4 and 12 turned out to be a basic double with a partial view of the water. If you leaned against the window and looked to the right, the bed appeared clean and was made properly. But when Pam checked the bathroom, she found hair in the tub and water spots on the mirror. The complimentary toiletries basket was missing conditioner, and there were only 2 towels instead of the 4 promised in the hotel brochure. Pam took out her phone and discreetly photographed the issues. Then she picked up the room phone to call housekeeping. It rang 12 times before anyone answered. "Housekeeping," a tired voice finally said. "Hello, this is room 412. I seem to be missing some towels and toiletries. We're short-staffed today. I can try to send someone up in about an hour." "I see. Is that normal?" A sigh came through the line. "Nothing's normal around here anymore. We used to have 12 housekeepers on day shift. Now we're down to 5 covering the same number of rooms. That was useful information and explained some of the issues, though not the attitude. I understand. Whenever you can get to it is fine." After hanging up, Pam unpacked her few belongings and settled in to review the hotel's employee handbook and recent financial statements on her tablet. The numbers told a clear story. Costs had been slashed dramatically in the past year, especially in staffing and training, while room rates remained high. It was a recipe for disaster in the hospitality industry. Her stomach growled, reminding her it was nearly dinner time. The Bayview had once been known for its seafood restaurant on the top floor. According to reviews online, the quality had declined sharply in recent months, with complaints about slow service and mediocre food. Pam decided it was time to test it herself. She freshened up and headed back to the elevator. A housekeeping cart sat unattended in the hallway, but there was no sign of anyone coming to address the issues in her room. In the elevator, Pam met an older couple who looked distinctly unhappy. "First time at the Bayview?" the woman asked, noticing Pam. "Yes, you?" "Our 5th time, but probably our last," the man said grimly. "It's not what it used to be." "What changed?" Pam asked, genuinely curious. "Everything," the woman sighed. "New owners, we heard. Whoever they are, they've ruined a beautiful place. They don't care about the guests anymore, just the money." Pam felt a pang of guilt, even though the decline had started well before her investment group purchased the chain. "That's disappointing to hear. If you're staying through the weekend, good luck," the man added as they reached the lobby. "The management doesn't even show up on weekends anymore. Place practically runs itself into the ground." Pam thanked them for the warning and watched them walk away, deep in conversation about finding a different hotel for their next visit. Their comments stung because she knew they were right. The hotel was failing its guests. But that was exactly why she was here, to understand the problems firsthand before she could fix them. As she made her way to the restaurant elevator, Pam noticed a tall man in an expensive suit talking sternly to 2 nervous-looking employees near the bar. From his authoritative stance and their deferential nods, she guessed he must be part of the management team. Tomorrow she would dig deeper, talk to more staff, and experience more of what the hotel offered. But already she knew that the road to restoring the way Bayview's reputation would be longer and more challenging than she had anticipated. What she didn't know yet was just how personal this journey was about to become. Pam woke to the sound of a housekeeping cart rattling past her door. The digital clock on the nightstand showed 6:47 a.m. She had always been an early riser, a habit from her days as Attorney General when mornings were often her only quiet time to think. She pulled back the curtains to reveal a stunning sunrise over the water. The view reminded her why the Bayview had once been the crown jewel of the hotel chain, and why she had been so determined to buy it despite its declining reputation. With the right management, this place could shine again. The bathroom still hadn't been properly cleaned, and no one had brought the missing towels or toiletries she'd requested yesterday. Pam made a note in the small leather notebook she carried. Detail mattered in the hospitality business, something the current staff seemed to have forgotten. After a quick shower, using the shampoo but skipping conditioner since none had been provided, Pam dressed in khaki pants and a casual shirt. Today she would explore more of the hotel's services and facilities, building a complete picture of what needed fixing. The breakfast buffet on the mezzanine level was her first stop. A sign at the entrance stated breakfast 6:30-10 a.m., but at 7:30 only half the warming trays were filled. 2 staff members chatted in the corner while a line formed at the omelet station, where a single cook struggled to keep up with orders. Pam joined the line behind a family with small children. The father looked increasingly frustrated as his kids grew restless. "We've been waiting 15 minutes, he told Pam. "There used to be 2 cooks here. Every year we come, and every year it gets worse." "Have you mentioned it to management?" Pam asked. The man laughed without humor. "You can never find management around here anymore. There's always some excuse." When Pam finally reached the front of the line, the cook barely glanced at her. His nameplate read Carlos, and despite being overwhelmed, he worked with impressive speed. "What can I make you?" he asked, already cracking eggs into a bowl. "Just a simple omelet with cheese and peppers, please." Carlos nodded, his hands moving automatically. As he worked, Pam noticed the dark circles under his eyes. "Busy morning," she commented. "Every morning is busy when you're doing the job of two people," he replied, flipping her omelet with practiced skill. "Been this way since they cut the staff in half last year." "That must be difficult." Carlos shrugged. "Need the job. Got 3 kids at home." He slid the finished omelet onto a plate and handed it to her. Next, Pam found a small table near the window. The omelet was surprisingly good, perhaps the only thing that lived up to the hotel's former reputation. As she ate, she observed the room. The carpet was worn in high-traffic areas. The curtains had water stains. Even the plates showed chips and scratches. A young woman with a trainee badge hurried from table to table, refilling coffee cups. When she reached Pam, her hand trembled slightly, spilling a few drops on the tablecloth. "I'm so sorry," the trainee gasped. "It's no problem at all," Pam assured her. "When did you start working here?" 3 days ago." The young woman glanced nervously over her shoulder. "I'm supposed to have a trainer with me, but he called in sick, so they just told me to do my best." "You're doing fine," Pam said with an encouraging smile. "Thanks. I really need this job. College tuition isn't going to pay itself." The trainee hurried away to the next table. After breakfast, Pam decided to try the hotel's spa, which had once been a major selling point. The brochure in her room advertised a full range of luxury treatments in our recently renovated wellness center. The reality was far different. The spa's reception area was unstaffed when she arrived. After waiting 5 minutes, Pam rang a small bell on the counter. Eventually, a middle-aged woman appeared, looking harried. "Sorry for the wait. I was finishing up a treatment," she said, though Pam noticed she was carrying a half-eaten sandwich. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, I was hoping to book a massage for this afternoon." The woman, whose name tag read Beth, checked a handwritten schedule. "I can fit you in at 3. It's just me today. Our other therapist quit last month." "That sounds fine. Has it been hard to replace staff?" Beth snorted. "Hard? Try impossible. Management cut the pay rates, so nobody wants to work here anymore. We used to have 4 full-time therapists and 2 assistants. Now it's just me most days." "The brochure says the spa was recently renovated," Pam mentioned. "That brochure is 3 years old," Beth said with a tired sigh. "They keep promising renovations, but all we got was a fresh coat of paint in the waiting room." Pam booked the appointment and decided to check out the pool area next. The Olympic-sized pool had been another highlight in the hotel's promotional materials. The pool itself was clean, but the surrounding deck needed attention. Lounge chairs with torn cushions were haphazardly arranged. Dead plants sat in cracked containers. A lone attendant collected used towels, looking overwhelmed by the task. "Excuse me," Pam called to him. "Is there someone who can help me with a fresh towel?" The young man looked up, exhaustion evident in his posture. "Sorry, ma'am. I'm the only one on duty until noon. Towels are in that cabinet. Help yourself." Pam thanked him and walked to the cabinet, which contained exactly 3 towels. As she took one, she noticed a laminated sign stating, "Pool attendant on duty 9 a.m. 9 p.m. She glanced at her watch. 10:15 a.m. Technically, there was someone on duty, but one person couldn't possibly maintain the entire area properly. She spent an hour by the pool, observing other guests and jotting down notes. Many seemed to be repeat visitors who commented on how things had changed, and not for the better. Around noon, Pam returned to her room to make some work calls. She was surprised to find that housekeeping had still not addressed her requests from yesterday. The bed had been made, but the bathroom remained uncleaned and the missing amenities had not been replaced. She picked up the phone to call the front desk. After 8 rings, someone finally answered. "Front desk. This is Ryan." "Hello, this is room 412. I reported some issues to housekeeping yesterday, but they haven't been resolved." A heavy sigh came through the receiver. "What's the problem?" "The bathroom wasn't properly cleaned and I'm missing towels and toiletries. Housekeeping is short-staffed today. I'll make a note, but it might not get done until tomorrow." "This was actually from yesterday," Pam pointed out. "I've been waiting over 24 hours. "Look, we're doing the best we can," Ryan said, his tone growing defensive. If you want to file a complaint, you can talk to management. Is a manager available? Not right now. The general manager only works Monday to Thursday and the assistant managers are in a meeting. I see, Pam said, keeping her voice neutral despite her growing frustration. When will someone be available? You can try tomorrow morning. With that, Ryan hung up. Pam stared at the phone for a moment, then placed it back in its cradle. The rudeness was shocking, but in a way she was grateful for the experience. It gave her a clear picture of what guests encountered and why the hotel's reputation had plummeted. Later, during her spa appointment, Beth turned out to be an excellent massage therapist who clearly took pride in her work. Despite the challenging circumstances, I've been here 12 years, she told Pam as she worked on a particularly tight shoulder muscle. Used to love this place. The original owners treated staff like family, and we did the same for guests. Then some corporate types bought it, slashed everything to boost profits, and sold it again when the place started failing. Do you know who owns it now? Pam asked, curious about how her purchase was perceived. Some investment group from out of state. Never met any of them. Probably just another bunch of suits who've never worked a day in a service job. Pam bit her lip to stop herself from responding. If Beth only knew. By dinner time, Pam had compiled a substantial list of issues that needed addressing. But she also had names of dedicated employees like Carlos and Beth, who were trying their best in impossible circumstances. As she headed to the restaurant for dinner, Pam knew that tomorrow would be the day to take her investigation to the next level. She needed to see how the hotel handled events and business functions, the most profitable part of any hotel operation. And based on what she'd observed so far, she wasn't optimistic about what she would find. Pam's third day at the Bayview Hotel began with a plan. After experiencing the disappointing guest services firsthand, she needed to investigate the business and events side, a crucial revenue stream for any luxury hotel. She dressed slightly more professionally today in dark slacks and a blazer, though still not in the power suits she typically wore as an executive. She skipped the disappointing breakfast buffet and instead ordered room service, another service to evaluate. The food arrived 40 minutes later, lukewarm and missing the side of fruit she had requested. The delivery attendant seemed genuinely apologetic. Kitchen's backed up, he explained, shifting nervously from foot to foot. Chef quit last week and the sous chef is trying to handle everything. That sounds challenging, Pam commented as she signed the bill. Whole place is challenging lately, the young man said with a sigh. Been here 3 years and it's never been this bad. After finishing her mediocre breakfast, Pam headed to the business center on the lobby level. The space was outdated but functional, with several computer workstations and a small conference room visible through glass doors. A sign indicated the conference room could be rented by the hour or day. A bored-looking man in his 30s sat at the reception desk, focused on his phone. His nameplate identified him as Tom, with the title Events Coordinator. He didn't look up when Pam approached. Continuing to scroll through whatever had captured his attention, Pam cleared her throat. Nothing. Excuse me, she said after waiting a reasonable time. Tom finally glanced up, clearly annoyed at the interruption. Yeah? I'd like some information about booking a meeting space, Pam explained. For when? He asked, still not putting his phone down. Today, if possible. I need to conduct some business calls and would prefer a private space. Tom snorted. Today? Not gonna happen. We've got a wedding set up and a corporate thing. Nothing available. Pam glanced through the glass doors of the conference room, which appeared completely empty. That room looks available. Tom followed her gaze and shrugged. That's reserved. For what time? All day. But there's no one in there, Pam pointed out. Tom finally put his phone down, irritation plain on his face. Look, lady, that room is blocked for potential overflow from the Monroe wedding. It's not available. I only need an hour or two, Pam pressed. If it's just blocked as potential overflow, no. Tom cut her off. Those are the rules. Actual events take priority over some random guest who wants to make phone calls. Pam took a deep breath, reminding herself that she was here to observe, not to pull rank. I'm actually here to discuss a potential corporate retreat for my company. We're looking at booking 30 rooms for a week, plus meeting spaces and catering. This finally caught Tom's attention. He straightened slightly in his chair. Oh, well, that's different. But you'd need to talk to the events manager about that, and she's not in today. When will she be available? Monday, maybe. She's been out sick a lot lately. He waved his hand dismissively. You should probably just look at another hotel, honestly. We're not really set up for big corporate things anymore. Pam raised an eyebrow. A hotel this size isn't set up for corporate events? Not since they cut the event staff from 6 people down to 2. Me and the manager, that's it. And she's hardly ever here. Tom picked up his phone again. So unless you're booking a wedding, I'd try the harbor view down the street. They've poached a bunch of our business anyway. This was valuable information, but Pam needed to see more. What about a smaller space? Even a dining room I could reserve for a business lunch? Tom sighed dramatically. Fine, let me check. He pulled up a scheduling program on the computer, clicking through screens with obvious impatience. There's a private dining room available at 1 p.m. Minimum food and beverage spend is $500. That would work, Pam said. I'll take it. Name? Patricia Monroe. I'm in room 412. Tom typed lazily, then turned the computer screen toward her. Sign here, and we'll need a credit card on file for the minimum. As Pam provided her card and signed the digital form, she glanced around the business center. Brochures advertised state-of-the-art technology and dedicated support staff, neither of which was evident. The printers had out-of-order signs, and half the computer stations were dark. Is there someone who can help set up the audio-visual equipment in the private dining room? She asked. Tom actually laughed. That would be me, and I don't do that anymore. Budget cuts. There's a TV in there with HDMI cables. You're on your own for the rest. I see, Pam said, taking back her credit card. One more question. Do you enjoy working here? The unexpected question caught Tom off guard. For a moment, his arrogant facade dropped. Used to, he admitted, when we had a real team and management that cared. No, he shrugged. It's just a paycheck until I find something better. Pam nodded thoughtfully and turned to leave. As she walked away, she heard Tom mutter, Don't know why anyone still comes to this dump. Instead of returning to her room, Pam decided to explore the event spaces directly. The hotel's largest ballroom was on the 2nd floor, and according to a sign near the elevators, it was being prepared for a Monroe wedding, 6 p.m. Despite sharing the last name she was using, this was pure coincidence. The double doors to the ballroom were propped open. Inside, 2 workers struggled to arrange tables and chairs while a woman with a clipboard directed them with increasing frustration. No, no, no! The head table goes on the north wall, not the east. We've been over this 3 times! The woman's voice carried across the half-set-up room. Pam stood in the doorway observing. The woman noticed her and frowned. This area is closed for setup, she called out. I'm sorry, I was just looking, Pam apologized. I'm considering the venue for an event. The woman's demeanor changed instantly from irritated to professional. She hurried over, hand extended. I'm Lisa, the wedding coordinator. Are you planning a wedding? A corporate retreat, actually, Pam explained, shaking her hand. Oh. Lisa's enthusiasm dimmed slightly. You'd want to talk to Tom downstairs for that. I did, but he wasn't very encouraging. Lisa lowered her voice. Between us, corporate events aren't our strong suit anymore. We lost our corporate coordinator in the last round of layoffs. Now it's just me handling weddings and Tom supposedly covering everything else. That seems like a lot for just 2 people, Pam commented. It's impossible, Lisa agreed, glancing back at the workers who had stopped to take a water break. I used to have an assistant and a setup crew of 6. Now I'm down to those 2 guys, and they're both new. Neither one has ever set up a ballroom before. The frustration in her voice was evident, but Pam could also see the pride Lisa took in her work. Despite everything, she was trying to create a perfect wedding for her clients. How often do you handle events now compared to before? Pam asked. We used to do 3 or 4 big events every weekend plus smaller functions during the week, Lisa said. Now we're down to maybe 1 major event a week. Word gets around when you can't deliver quality service. One of the workers called out a question about the table linens, and Lisa excused herself to address the issue. Pam watched as she patiently demonstrated how to properly dress a table, taking time to teach rather than just criticize. At exactly 1 p.m., Pam arrived at the private dining room she had reserved. Despite the $500 minimum, the room was hardly ready. The tables were clean but not set. No water glasses, no place settings, nothing to indicate an expected business lunch. She waited 10 minutes before anyone came to check on her. Finally, a harried server appeared. Are you the Monroe reservation? He asked. Yes, I booked this for a business lunch. The server looked confused. I don't have any notes about food orders. Tom didn't mention I needed to pre-order, Pam explained. Classic Tom, the server muttered. I'm really sorry, but the kitchen needs at least 30 minutes for orders. We're short-staffed today. Every department seems to be short-staffed, Pam observed. Welcome to the Bayview, the server said with a tight smile. Can I get you started with some drinks while you wait? I'll bring menus right away. The lunch that followed was a microcosm of every problem Pam had observed. Slow service, mediocre food, and a general sense that nobody was in charge. Her business associates never materialized. They were fictional anyway. But she used the time to compile her notes and plan her next steps. By late afternoon, Pam had seen enough. Tomorrow would be the day she revealed her identity and began the hard work of turning this hotel around. She had identified the key issues: severe understaffing, poor training, lack of accountability, and a complete breakdown in morale. But she had also found bright spots, people like Lisa and Carlos and the young trainee at breakfast who still cared about doing a good job despite the challenges. They would be the foundation of her rebuilding efforts. As she walked through the lobby, Pam noticed a group of well-dressed people being led on a tour by a tall man in an expensive suit, the same man she had spotted her first day. From the snippets of conversation she overheard, they were potential investors considering purchasing the struggling hotel chain. Pam smiled to herself. Little did they know that deal had already been made, and starting tomorrow, things at the Bayview would never be the same again. Pam woke early on her final day at the Bayview, the morning sun streaming through the partially opened curtains. Today everything would change. She opened her laptop and sent a brief email to her executive team. Meeting at Bayview Hotel, main conference room, 11 a.m. Urgent. She dressed with purpose, choosing the outfit she had carefully packed for this moment. A tailored navy suit, crisp white blouse, and the pearl necklace that had become something of a signature during her time as Attorney General. Gone was the casual tourist look of the past 3 days. Today she needed to look like the owner and CEO she was. After dressing, she called the front desk. Ryan answered, his voice already sounding tired despite the early hour. This is Patricia Monroe in room 412. I need to book the main conference room for an 11 a.m. meeting today. That's not possible, Ryan replied flatly. Conference rooms need to be booked 24 hours in advance. I understand, but this is an emergency business situation, Pam explained calmly. Not my problem, Ryan said. You'll have to talk to Tom in the business center when he gets in at 9. And when will the general manager be available today? He's not coming in. Thursday's his golf day. I see, Pam said. One last question. Who is the highest-ranking person currently in the hotel? Ryan sighed dramatically. That would be Mr. Reynolds, the assistant manager. He'll be in at 10. Perfect. Please let Mr. Reynolds know that I need to speak with him as soon as he arrives. It's extremely urgent. Yeah, sure, Ryan said, clearly uninterested. Anything else? That's all for now. Thank you, Ryan. At precisely 10 o'clock, Pam walked to the front desk. Ryan was still there, now joined by a thin man with a permanently worried expression. His nameplate identified him as Reynolds, assistant manager. They were engaged in what appeared to be an argument about the schedule. We're already short-staffed, Reynolds was saying. You can't just decide not to come in tomorrow because you have a concert. Well, fire me then, Ryan challenged. Good luck finding someone else willing to work these hours for this pay. Pam cleared her throat. Both men looked up, surprised by her professional appearance, a stark contrast to her casual attire from previous days. Mr. Reynolds? She inquired. I'm Patricia Monroe. I called earlier about an urgent matter. Reynolds forced a customer service smile. Ah, yes, Ms. Monroe. Ryan mentioned you needed assistance. How can I help you? I need the main conference room for a meeting at 11, and I need your help coordinating a few other details. Reynolds' smile faltered. I'm afraid that's not possible on such short notice. The conference room requires 24 hours notice. Yes, I'm aware, Pam interrupted. However, this meeting is non-negotiable, and it directly concerns the future of this hotel. Are you with a tour group or something? Reynolds asked, confusion evident on his face. No. Mr. Reynolds, I'm Pamela Bondi. She reached into her purse and pulled out her business card. which clearly stated her position, CEO, Bayview Hotel Group. Reynolds stared at the card, then at Pam, his face draining of color. Beside him, Ryan's jaw literally dropped. "But your reservation says Patricia Monroe," Reynolds stammered. "My middle name and my mother's maiden name," Pam explained. "I've been conducting an undercover assessment of this property for the past 3 days." Reynolds swallowed hard. I didn't know the new ownership group was planning a visit." "That was rather the point," Pam said. "Now, about that conference room. Of course, Ms. Bondi, I'll have it prepared immediately." Reynolds was suddenly the picture of efficiency. "Would you like coffee service? Lunch? Anything at all?" "Coffee service would be appropriate. And I need you to gather all department heads and supervisors for this meeting. Everyone currently on duty." "Absolutely." Reynolds turned to Ryan, who was still staring in shock. "Call everyone, now." As Ryan scrambled to comply, Pam added, "Mr. Reynolds, please also call the general manager. I believe he's golfing today?" "Yes, Ms. Bondi, I'll reach him right away." "Excellent. Tell him his presence is required." "This isn't a request." As Reynolds hurried away to make the calls, Pam turned back to Ryan, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "You've been very helpful during my stay, Ryan," she said calmly. "I've learned a great deal about how this hotel operates from our interactions." Ryan's face flushed with the realization that every dismissive comment, every shortcut, every failure to follow protocol had been noted by the new owner. "Ms. Bondi, I didn't know." "I'm sorry if—" "We'll discuss all of that during the meeting," Pam said. "For now, please continue calling the department heads." The next hour was a flurry of activity throughout the hotel. Word spread rapidly that the new owner was on site and had been undercover for days. Staff members who had interacted with Pam frantically tried to recall their behavior, wondering if they had sealed their fate without knowing it. By 10:55, the conference room was prepared with fresh coffee, water pitchers, and notepads at each seat. Staff members filed in nervously, whispering among themselves. Pam recognized many faces from her time undercover. Carlos from the breakfast buffet, Beth from the spa, Lisa the wedding coordinator, and Tom from the business center, who looked particularly uncomfortable. At exactly 11 Pam entered the room. The chatter immediately ceased. Every eye followed her as she walked confidently to the head of the table. "Good morning," she began. "I'm Pamela Bondi, CEO of Bayview Hotel Group. 3 weeks ago, my investment firm acquired this hotel chain, and for the past 3 days, I've been staying here as a guest to assess operations firsthand." She paused, looking around the table at the nervous faces. "I believe in seeing things from the ground up. What I've witnessed here has been enlightening." Reynolds entered the room, slightly out of breath. "Ms. Bondi, I've reached the general manager. He's on his way, but it will take him about 40 minutes to get here from the golf course." "Thank you. Mr. Reynolds, we'll begin without him." Pam opened her notebook where she had documented every interaction, every service failure, and every honest comment from staff. "Let me share what I've experienced as a guest of this hotel," she continued. "My room was inadequately cleaned. Requests for additional towels and toiletries went unfulfilled for over 24 hours. The breakfast buffet was understaffed and half empty. The pool area was poorly maintained. The spa, while providing excellent service thanks to Beth's personal efforts, has been reduced to a shadow of what was advertised." Several staff members looked down, unable to meet her gaze. "When I attempted to book a conference room as a potential corporate client, I was told, and I quote, 'You should probably just look at another hotel, and that this property is not really set up for big corporate things anymore.'" Tom sank lower in his seat. "I was repeatedly told that the hotel is understaffed, that management is rarely present, and that the quality of service has declined significantly over the past year." Pam closed her notebook and looked around the table again. Would anyone here disagree with that assessment? Silence filled the room. Then slowly Carlos raised his hand. "Ms. Bondi, everything you said is true. We used to be proud to work here. Now we're just trying to survive each day." Others nodded in agreement, and suddenly everyone began speaking at once, sharing their frustrations and challenges. Pam listened carefully, noting which employees spoke with genuine concern for the hotel versus those who merely complained. After several minutes, she held up her hand for silence. "I didn't come here to assign blame or to fire people," she said, and a collective sigh of relief swept through the room. "I came to understand what needs to change. This hotel was once the flagship of a respected chain. It can be that again, but only with the right leadership and resources. She turned to Reynolds. The staffing cuts, the reduced training, the deferred maintenance, who authorized these changes? Reynolds shifted uncomfortably. The previous ownership group had a strict cost-cutting mandate. The general manager was instructed to reduce operating expenses by 30% while maintaining revenue targets. An impossible task, Pam noted, and clearly one that failed, given the declining occupancy rates and negative reviews. Just then, the conference room door swung open. A red-faced man in golf attire strode in, looking both annoyed and anxious. "I'm Richard Taylor, the general manager," he announced. "I was told there was an emergency." Pam stood and extended her hand. "Mr. Taylor, I'm Pamela Bondi, CEO of Bayview Hotel Group. The emergency is the state of this hotel under your management." Taylor's confident demeanor faltered as he processed who was standing before him. He reluctantly shook her hand. "Ms. Bondi, had I known you were visiting, I would have prepared a show for me." Pam finished his sentence. "That's precisely why I didn't announce myself. I needed to see the real Bayview, not a performance." She gestured to an empty chair. "Please join us. We've been discussing the changes needed to restore this hotel's reputation and success." As Taylor took his seat, looking thoroughly uncomfortable in his golf clothes amid a room of uniformed staff, Pam remained standing. Her presence commanded attention, her voice firm but not unkind. "Today marks a new beginning for the Bayview," she announced, "and I'm going to need every person in this room to decide if they want to be part of it."